Hi, my name is Dr. Karen Can. I'm a medical doctor and a doctor of light medicine and the founder of the Academy of Light Medicine and the Topican Healing Method. In today's mini training, I'm going to be talking about infection prevention and about the Topican Healing Method for body, mind, and spirit resilience. So the Western approach to infection has to do with, the bad guys, the viruses, the bacteria, the fungus, right? It's all about what's on the outside that can attack us. And therefore, we need to prevent these particles of molecules of viruses and everything from getting to us. So we talk about masking, we talk about social distancing, right? You've all heard of those sorts of things. Well, that is the Western approach, and it's all about the outside world. Now, here is something a little different. Now, Louis Pasteur, who's well known for his germ theory, germs causing illnesses, right? What was really interesting was that he had a rival. The rival basically said, no, 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 it's not about the germs. It's about the biological terrain of the person. So don't worry as much about killing the germs and worry more about making that person more resilient. So this is the difference between the germ theory and the terrain theory. So the germ theory, again, is about these outside germs, attacking us, and therefore we need a vaccine to prevent the outside germs from being able to attack us, right? Bolster our immune system through a vaccine. Wash our hands, use hand sanitizer, mask, this is all germ theory related. And then what, Beauchamp was talking about was that terrain theory. So disease comes from a weakened immune system. And what's very interesting is I found a study about these scientists that were in Antarctica, and they were literally isolated from the rest of the world. And guess what? They came down with a cold. They came down with infection, one by one by one. And you're like, okay, well, who started it, right? They're isolated. They weren't sick, and then now they're sick. So, what's really interesting is that there are trillions of bacteria and other organisms on and inside our bodies at all times, even when we're perfectly healthy. So Louis Pasteur on his deathbed actually said that, the microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. So on his deathbed, he pretty much agreed with Beauchamp. But by then, the germ theory had taken off. It had a life of its own. And that's where we are today. So check out this great article by Dr. Robert Young, where he kind of summarizes the difference between those two things. So tip number 1 today for infection prevention is to stop thinking about getting sick from these outside influences attacking you and start enhancing your biological terrain, enhancing your health and resiliency from the inside out. Let's talk a little bit about the physical immune system. What most people are commonly, told in school, in biology class, in medical school, is about the humoral and the cell-mediated immune systems, right? So these are the physical immune systems, coming from the thymus, the bone marrow, these important cells, if you will, that are helpful to ward off infection. What's really interesting is when they're testing vaccines, they often just look for the humoral. So they're just looking for antibodies. But that kind of discounts like a lot of the other parts of the immune system. Okay, so I don't think that it's very thorough to just look at antibodies as far as the health and wellness of someone's immune system. Now, there is something else I call the symbiotic immune system. Now, what is that? Well, it's actually the trillions of bacteria that are symbiotically helping you to be healthy, and they're part of your gut immune system. In fact, you have 70 to 80% of your immune system cells in your gut. Yes, in your gut. So we call this the microbiome. And it's not that it was recently invented, but it was recently described, and even most medical doctors are not trained in understanding the microbiome. Now, those that are in functional medicine or naturopathy, maybe, but definitely Western trained MDs. I never even heard of it. The terminology wasn't even there when I was in medical school. So these bacteria help you with your nutrition, help you get the vitamins out of your food even, is your first line of defense, when pathogens go through the gut. So your symbiotic immune system is equally, if not more important in some circles, they feel, than, some of the other immune systems that we commonly talk about in the physical body. Now, in addition to your physical immune system, you have an energetic immune system. So let's review a little bit. So you've got your physical immune system, which I'm kind of calling that cell-mediated humoral immunity, including your antibodies and these other cells, that are part of the immune system. You can measure them in the blood, etc. Then you have your symbiotic immune system, which is that immune system provided to you by your gut microbiome. If they're happy, your immune system is most likely much happier as well. So understanding that they're an important part of you and that your diet is really important for making them healthy and happy, or not healthy and happy if you have to be eating a lot of sugar or alcohol or taking antibiotics or medications that can really mess with them. Okay, so that interferes with the health of your immune system. And then there is what I call the energetic immune system. Now, the Eastern approach is all about energy. In traditional Chinese medicine, for example, it's well understood that before someone gets sick, there has to be a lot of imbalances in their energy body, in their what they call acupuncture meridians, in their acupuncture points, and in the balance of the different areas of the body. There's Ayurvedic, there's Asian medicine, all different kinds of these ancient approaches, but they talk about the energy of the body. And if the energy of the body is not healthy, eventually the organs and glands and cells that are controlled by that energetic pattern also get unhappy as well. So it's not just the physical patterns and the cells in our body that we have to pay attention to make sure we prevent being infected, but also the energy patterns underlying it as well. So in Chinese medicine, we call this part of the immune system the Wei Qi field. It's like the field that's around you that prevents, energetic imbalances coming through. I used to laugh because being Chinese, some of these terms that my aunties who were acupuncturists would use, like, oh, you have wind invasion or excess cold or excess damp. And I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I didn't really get it. But the funny thing is that, if you are, no coat, hat, scarf, and you're out in the cold, guess what? You probably have cold viruses in you already, but because your body is spending so much energy trying to heat you up and trying to protect you, your Wei Qi field can get weakened by that excess cold, that excess wind. And then therefore you get susceptible to having an infection. So the Wei Qi field is something that is important to understand and know about to prevent you from actually catching a cold. Right? So your great-grandmother and grandmother were correct. Wear your hat and scarf and mittens in the cold and in the wind. So tip number 2 for infection prevention today is stop thinking about just your physical immune system and start supporting and balancing all 3 of your primary immune systems. So what are our 2020 strategies that we have heard about as far as preventing viral infections? We've got social distancing, we've got masking, we've got, staying indoors. Heaven forbid you get close to someone who might sneeze on you or cough on you or breathe on you, who has the virus, right? Then if you do get, sick, with, for example, the coronavirus, COVID-19, then, some of the Western medical doctors are like, oh my gosh, let's use hydrochloroquine. It's been around for 40 years. It's no longer a patented drug. It's very inexpensive. And you can cut those symptoms really, really quickly when you use it at the beginning. But now, there's all this political stuff and, doctors not being able to prescribe it anymore. Pharmacists, being told, don't give it to doctors, crazy stuff like that. So what are you going to do? you know. Then there's, inhaled steroids. There's a doctor in Texas that has a 100% healing rate using steroids for coronavirus, especially when used early. Same thing with hydroxychloroquine, very, very high success rate. But, these things may be limited due to whatever agenda is going on, preventing you or your doctor from getting access to that. So what are some of the natural healing strategies you may have heard of as well? Well, of course, we've got vitamin D, we've got your minerals like zinc and magnesium, other vitamins and vitamin C, a healthy diet, right, low in sugar, because supposedly our white blood cells, which is part of that immune system I talked about, that physical immune system earlier, they kind of go for 4 hours if you eat a bunch of sugar. They don't work that well. Your white cells don't work that well when you eat a bunch of sugar. So diet is important, of course. Exercise, getting fresh air and sunlight. These are some of the things that the naturopathic doctors have been talking about to bolster and support your natural immunity. That terrain, right? Talk about that biological terrain, making that stronger. And of course, rest and de-stress, which can be really challenging these days, especially if you're watching a lot of news or Facebook posts where people are arguing with each other. It's hard to stay out of that stress mode, but it's very, very important. So these are kind of the strategies that you may have already heard of. There could be others that, whether it be treating, infection, whether it be, on the extreme, oxygen and ventilators, and then naturally, at home with colloidal silver and, other kinds of things. So what happens when we go beyond what we already know or commonly know? When we use light, when we use energy, when we use frequency, we can make a shift at the quantum level of our bodies, which then can change the messaging and what's going on in our bodies. So this is Dr. Rupert Sheldrake here on the right-hand side, and he is a PhD. He talks about something called the morphic fields. So morphic fields are like an energy blueprint or pattern. And in my energy work, I have found that it's been incredibly helpful to understand positive and negative morphic fields. So a negative morphic field might be, for example, a negative emotion that all of mass consciousness is feeling. For example, the negative morphic field of fear or panic or terror. That is a field of energy, and it's palpable. You can actually feel it. And if you're a highly sensitive person, you can feel it even more than the average person. And then there are positive morphic fields that can make a shift, not only having that positive morphic field yourself, but you can literally affect other people with this positive morphic field. For example, my favorite story is about a Canadian who was in the Olympics, Alexandre Bilideau, if I'm saying his French name correctly. He was the first to win a gold medal for Canada in a Winter Olympic Games in the home country of Canada. And the media had been going nutso, before the Olympics, talking about how Canada never wins a gold medal in their own country, never wins, not really great inspiration for those poor athletes, right? But Alexandre did it. He did it. He won the first gold medal, and he did it really quickly in the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, right near the start of the Olympics. And you know what? He set up a positive morphic field that it has already been done. Gold medal, Canada, been done, right? So after that, there were a slew of other Canadian athletes who won gold. It was like a miracle. Canada didn't know what hit it, But that's an example of the power of a positive morphic field. Another one would be like Roger Bannister, for example, the first guy to run the 4-minute mile. Scientists said 20 years prior to that, it's not possible. Humans cannot run that fast. But once he did it, within 18 months, a whole bunch of people also did it. Now you could say, oh, they were inspired. Yeah, maybe. But there was a positive morphic field of already having done it. So guess what? Vitamin C has its own morphic field. Vitamin D has its own morphic field. Joy has its own morphic field. Now, how powerful would you be to be able to access those positive morphic fields for yourself? Because at the end of the day, it is not the biochemistry of your body that really makes things work in your body. It's the signaling of it. And that's why there are some people in the world who do not have to eat or not eat very much in order to sustain their body. And like, how does that happen? Well, how do plants do? Well, they do it by photosynthesis, right? And they're taking light and they transmute that light and somehow make it into plant molecules. Well, there are some humans that are able to do that. Some people call them breatharians, able to take spirit, energy from the quantum, and be able to produce energy and work in their bodies. So they upkeep their bodies, which is really, really incredible. Beyond what we can talk about today, but pretty incredible stuff. Now, you know who this is, Albert Einstein. Einstein. And he talked about this quantum realm as having pretty spooky action, meaning that there were some several experiments done, quantum physics experiments, about how when we observe something happening that we could change the outcome, and how two things that are, once stuck together, but like they shot two photons, 14 miles apart, and when we stimulated one photon over here, the other one moved at exactly the same time. There was absolutely 0 time difference between those two. And these are sorts of things that he called spooky action. Like, how does that happen? Like, how do you heal someone 3,000 miles away immediately, right? They're 3,000 miles away. Well, you do it through the quantum realm, So, okay. So do you know this lady here? This is Lynn McTaggart. And she is a journalist, investigative journalist. And she started trying to, kind of figure out, what is going on with all this energy weird stuff, right? She was a little skeptical, honestly. And she went to all these scientists and decided to really put them to the test. Let's do some experiments, called them intention experiments. Like, okay, we're going to have a bunch of people, focus on this plant to grow it faster. And then this plant, we're not going to have, do that, right? And lo and behold, they found that when people focused on the plant, they could grow it faster. They could change pH meters. They could change random event generators. Okay, these are things that are all over the world. And they check to see whether there's something energetically happening in the world that's a little different, because normally random event generators are sort of like a heads or a tails for a coin. It's random. So, 50-50, that's what you get normally, right? But if there's some event in the world that really impacts the world, guess what? These random event generators skew to one side. Like, for example, when Princess Diana died, or the 9/11 happened in the United States, whoop, those random event generators were no longer random anymore. And in some of these experiments that Lynn McTaggart, reported on, they actually ran these random event generator machines, locked it in a safe. They did not know what the result was. They had people meditating on these random event generators to change it, instead of more of a 0 to more of a 1, right? Binary 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 should be 50-50, but they said focus on making more ones, for example. And what they did was, after everyone did the healing or the intention experiment, they actually took it out of the safe. No one had touched it. Okay, looked at the results, and sure enough, there were more ones than zeros. How did that happen? How did that happen? They did the intention after they ran that test, right? This is the spooky action that Albert Einstein was talking about when it comes to the quantum. But you can use that to your benefit. So in addition to your physical body and even your energetic body, guess what? You have a whole bunch of other parts of you. There's your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your dimensional body. We can't go into great detail about each of these, but each of these has its own sovereignty. And guess what? You can be infected by other energies in any of these bodies, not just your physical body. And that can affect your physical body in some way, shape, or form as well. Now, the Topican healing method, which is a healing method that I founded and teach to people, either to heal themselves or as practitioners, we use this method to align with Source, ask appropriate questions. So we're dipping into that quantum realm and connecting with all that information that's out there, asking the right question, and then activating specific healing frequencies, or guess what? It's called positive morphic fields, right? These specific positive morphic fields to help body, mind, soul to heal and become more resilient. And then in Topican healing, we have a method of actually speaking out what's called a Topican healing directive. And it's like the words have energy, and the words there help to activate specific positive fields to help you heal faster. So one of the big tips for today is, stop thinking that you can only improve your immune system with diet, exercise, and supplements, or drugs for that matter, or vaccines, and start using light and energy to support and balance all your systems. What else can we do? Well, in the ask phase, we can actually ask and assess how balanced is my physical immune system in this body right now? How balanced is my microbiome in my body right now? And you can get percentages out of 100% using divine muscle testing, which is one of the skill sets that I teach in the Topican healing method. How balanced and sovereign is my Wei Qi field, that energetic immune system? These are all things that you can know in just about a minute with the tools that you can learn to test. Emotional sovereignty. How happy is that? Because guess what? If you don't have happy emotional sovereignty, you are going to be absorbing the negative energy from a heck of a lot of people and even mass consciousness, which is very uncomfortable. And you may be in a place of terror or anxiety, not even knowing that it's not your stuff. And then mentally, same thing. Do you have negative thoughts that come through? Maybe they're not yours. If your mental body is not sovereign, you could be infected by negative thought forms, negative beliefs. One of the questions you can even ask yourself is, how well can a specific virus, we're not going to say which one, can attach to your cells? You can even ask those kinds of specific questions. Align, ask, and activate. So tip number 4 is stop guessing about how happy and balanced your immune system is. Stop guessing. Okay? Use tools to actively assess how balanced and happy your immune system is, or anything else in your life that you would like to ask about. So this is what we're being inundated, right? Inundated, the news and Facebook and who says what and who's right and who's wrong and all this stuff. So much stress. You already know that stress isn't good for you, right? Well, guess what? Stress actually decreases the quality of your immune system. So how do you sift through all this information, and how do you know what's appropriate for you and what isn't? Well, in traditional Chinese medicine, we individualize. That's why it's really difficult sometimes to do these double-blind, placebo-controlled trials with, Chinese medicine, because it's not just a single pill. Like one person may need a specific remedy, another person has another specific remedy, but they both get better, even though they have the same Western diagnoses, right? So tip number 5 is stop relying on the media and your friends to give you important and relevant health information, and start instead discerning for yourself what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Yes, start discerning for yourself, your unique body, your unique self, what works for you, what doesn't. One video that I could watch that I absolutely need to watch because of my role as a healer, information could be very dark video, for example, but then I know what to heal, right? It might be my soul mission to watch that video. But for you, it might be a really downer video, because that's not your role to heal it, and it could totally depress you for a whole week, So even though it might be appropriate for me to watch that video because of my mission, it may not be appropriate for you to watch that video. So that's that degree of discernment that is really, really important. So why do things differently at all, right? Well, guess what? Right now, so many people are anxious. They're uncertain about their future, whether it be financially or physically. They're overwhelmed with all the information. They don't know who to believe, right? But what if you could be empowered? What if you could be centered and calm? So that's why these tips are here. That's why I'd love for you to make a switch, to go from that anxiety, uncertainty, overwhelm to being empowered, centered, and calm. So that's why I've created a training called the Divine Design Training, Resiliency Through Body, Mind, Soul, or Becoming Resilient Body, Mind, Soul. In this particular program, the first thing we do is the illumination step, which is really understanding in more detail how energy healing works. A lot of people are still very left brain, So they want to know why and how it works. I get it. So in this divine design training, I'll be teaching you about that, so you can understand it. A lot of people said, oh, do I need to understand it in order to use it? No. It's like, can you explain to me how a light bulb works? Maybe you can if you're an engineer. But most people are like, I don't really understand how electricity works. I just know how to do the switch and the light comes on, right? But for those of you that really want to understand how energy works in a bigger way, then that's the first step. And then the second step is the investigation step. That's where we ask all those really important quality questions to figure out what it is that we need to work on, what it is we need to heal. So asking the right questions is super important. The next step is a formulation. This is how we use our natural healing gifts through imagination, through creativity, and then tapping into those positive morphic fields so we can transform and transmute negative energies with positive energies. And in that way, you can get more clarity. You can get more clarity about how happy your immune systems are. You're not guessing. You can check these in about 3 minutes, 1 to 3 minutes. It takes me seconds, but for most people, 1 to 3 minutes. You get more control over your life because at any moment of the time, even if you start not feeling well, you can do a really great checkup right away. You can test and see what things would help you. Would silver help you? Would vitamin C help you? Would vitamin D help you right now? Would bone broth help you right now? Right? And then you have more certainty of your future. Because the hardest thing for a lot of people is being afraid. They're afraid that their loved ones are going to get, COVID or sick or whatever, right? But if you had that certainty that you had that degree of clarity and control for yourself and your family members, how much more confident would you be? And you probably would be a heck of a lot less stressed, right? And when we can have this clarity, this control, this certainty and confidence about your well-being, then you can have resilience, body, mind, and soul. So in this program, we work on not just your immune systems, your 3 primary immune systems, but we show you how to shift the frequency and energy of your cells to be more resilient. We show you how to discern between, what is for your highest and greatest good to do or not do, what's for your highest and greatest good to read or not read, and then how to clear negative energies that are not yours, including negative emotions of others. And that's super important for health and wellness. So the divine design training, Becoming Resilient Body, Mind, Spirit, is my answer to this. And what's really neat is that you can write down and set an intention to do this for your whole family and your whole household, just by you going through it and ebbing and vibing that positive morphic field, that positive energy that I'll teach you how to do in the divine design training. You will positively affect others, and with your intention and of course with their permission, if they allow healing, then we can actually help your whole family become more resilient in this way. So thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I look forward to working with you soon. Now, if you are watching this on Facebook, which you might be, what I'd love for you to do is, if you're interested to learn more about the divine design training, I want you to put in the comments, okay? Put in the comments the keyword immune, okay? And if you put the keyword immune, IMMUNE, in the comments, then I'll know to private message you and send you the special link to learn more about the divine design training. And then we can have a little conversation there. So thank you so much again for joining me. And I hope you love this as much as I do, if you're a fan of holistic healing, energy healing. And I'd love for you also to comment below, what's the best part about this training today? What did you learn? What was the best part for you? Lots of love, and until next time, bye for now.